Hey y'all, welcome back to the Oriway podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Gabriel. Here we rise, begin, and appear as image bearers of Jesus Christ. So welcome on in.
Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode.
Before we get into what we want to talk about today, I need to give a shout out to Big George Foreman. That movie was,
Yes.
I dare say, timeless.
Yes, it was a great movie.
Yeah, definitely suiting for the season that we're in personally, but just if you need a story that has grit, God, and hard work in it with a touch of divine inspiration, that's it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we watched a great movie that I could actually sit through and not fall asleep on.
Right. We get enough action with the kids. We don't need any extra.
Yeah.
That was it was just the right amount. And yeah, it was good. It was good. But today we want to talk about design, and specifically, do you know the design for your life?
Yeah. So why don't we backtrack? I want to backtrack to what we felt like was included in the design of our life from even as a young child. I feel like you may not know the entire scope of what your life is designed for, but we all have hints of what that could include from the gifts and the passions and the skills that we have that God has given us. Right?
Yeah. Even from when you were a child sitting on your living room table or your kitchen table, writing, drawing. I remember I was actually cutting tapes of songs that I could only hear on the radio because I wanted to sing just like Music Soul Child. And the only way that I was going to hear the track back again before LimeWire was if I got it on a tape. But we all have hints of the gifts and just the passions, because passion itself is a gift. To even care, to be able to sit and rest in an art form or any activity is a gift from God, you know, that we don't get bored of. But we all have something, an inkling of it. Even I feel like it was more clear in childhood.
It usually is, right?
It usually is.
Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's your dream? Usually you have some type of hint.
Yeah.
But I can say for mine, I loved to draw from, I want to say the age of 7. It could have been before that, but I vividly remember being around 7 years old and drawing at the kitchen table in the middle of the night. And I was awake by myself and I didn't care because I loved to draw. And I wasn't great at it, but I loved it. And I could just sit there for hours. I've always been a night owl, and I'd reference lots of portraits and just try to draw the people that I was referencing. And again, I was not great. I'd wake up in the morning and then show my my mom and sisters, and they tried their best to support me and say how great it looked.
Oh, it's a block of cheese.
That's
it's
what
a watermelon
he did.
Slice.
That's what he did to me. Yeah. Anyway.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah. But I was so passionate that I believed in the support around me, and I believed in my passion more than anything. But I did drop it years later. I left it for dance, and I didn't come back to it till, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago.
Right. And, you know, my story is pretty similar in its own way. Grew up, I loved Legos. Right, that was me. All right. Legos.
That was your passion.
No, seriously, that was my passion. I wish I could find some pictures of the entire estate. I built pyramids, towers that my cousin would constantly knock over. Shout out Rachel. I built skate parks, Harry Potter, Hogwarts stations, and I love Legos. And it was definitely a landscape and a medium for me to imagine and to build out storylines And that was a real passion of mine alongside listening to music. I didn't yet, I loved hearing music. I loved what it did to my body, to my mind, to my emotions. But I don't think I ever thought that I could have control over it. It felt more like magic to me at the time. Elusive, and just honestly, I was just grateful that I could even hear it done so well. You know, just happy to even just be a happy participant by listening. I'm a good audience, you know. And it really wasn't until my freshman year of college where I met one of my great friends, Santoy Campbell. Shout out, you know, follow him. He's that boy going up. But it wasn't until I met him that he awakened a belief in me that I could actually control this elusive power that music has, and literally harness so much of the creative energy I used with Legos, you know, in my early childhood. I could actually use it here now in this more matured state of mind at the time, because, you know, I was really into poetry and always a lyricist in my own right. But yeah, that was about 10 years ago, and that's when it was started for me. Like I feel like that was a real start for me. Yeah.
I want to speak a little on the control aspect you were just talking about, because you said how you didn't feel like you could have control over it, but then realized that you possibly could. Right. And I think really what that amounts to is training. We can have even a gift in something. Like, it may not just be a passion, but we may actually be gifted in that area, and some areas or some parts of it may come natural to us, but it still requires training to have some level of control over producing excellence.
Yeah.
And that's with anything. Anything requires hard work. And so that even can give us some guidance on going after those gifts and passions and those dreams, you know, even those that we had from a child and we haven't revisited since then. You know, it can be intimidating to revisit. It can be intimidating to pick up that pencil again, or wow, that mic again, because you think you can't have control over that thing, or it feels too great, it feels too grand, or you have such high standards, which is not a bad thing, but you have such high standards that you think you can't reach those standards.
Right. You outpace yourself before you even start walking.
When in actuality, anything that we do where we want to do it to a professional level, an excellent level, it requires a great level of training and discipline and practice and failure, even in the midst of that journey of gaining more experience with that thing. And so that speaks a whole lot to even the journey that we're gonna continue talking about that we went through.
I mean, you even mentioning failure, I think one of the marked differences being older and embracing music was that I had grown a sturdiness of sorts to failure, just right, even an acceptance of like, it, to be able to tolerate the taste of failure.
Yeah, like you realize, oh wow, this is inevitable. Like it is part of the process, no matter what, no matter how good you are, no matter how gifted you are, no matter how skilled you are in that area, you still have to fail one way or another.
And submitting to that is even a test of your love in that area.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, we fail that test, but, you know, I thank God because he brings certain circumstances in your life. He brought circumstances in our life, especially with Jonah, that it became that failure wasn't even an option, because failure really is a stop.
Well, so I say
that in the holistic sense too.
No, I hear you.
Because failure, like I say, like, honestly, people think about failure and they think, oh, I tried this and I failed and it's heartbreak. But failure really is quitting.
So that's what I was going to say.
Is.
I was going to say,
Okay.
because we're going to fail in the midst of growing, but it's quitting that
Right.
actually creates the stop.
That should be the definition of failure. Quitting.
Exactly. No, I hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Because what is failing when you're growing? You know, it's not failing because
Wow.
yeah, because
You call me a bad parent. If I constantly told these boys, you failed, look at you. It's like, no, they're actually learning.
exactly,
Yeah.
learning. That's like the key word. You're learning. You need to mess things up or have accidents or
And it's vulnerable.
it is. It's very vulnerable. Nobody likes to feel like they're being messy or like they didn't get it right.
Right. Especially the older you get.
Oh,
it just
yeah.
makes you look, there's so many judgments and second opinions that you kind of live with and internalize as your own opinion. And you carry a whole lot of baggage that honestly really didn't even come from you, because what God gave you from day one was passion, you know,
Right.
but life comes, people's opinions, and
Right.
over time that's baggage.
Or
but-
comparison. You compare yourself to the great works of others, which achieve that thing from experience and from years of practice.
Yeah, and comparison has a utility to it as well, but it's when it grows out of hand that you don't even submit to the idea of years of practice.
Right.
You know, when in reality, what we've seen in our own lives is that what I assumed would have taken years, what
Yeah.
I felt like would have taken years, I'm like 3 months later, well, I should have started this a year ago. Then
Yeah.
I'd be like 10 years ahead of where I am right now.
Yeah. And same here. And that speaks to when you follow the gifts and the passions that God has given you and that He's instructed you to do. I think it's important to hear, to get to know the voice of God so that you know what it is He's calling you to do. At least, and you may not know like exactly what He's calling you to do with that thing, but if you just start, training in that area and start building your life
Where
around
you
that
can.
area or your work around that area,
Yeah.
that passion, that gift, then the favor will definitely come. And like he said, things that you thought may take you years to get better at, you may find that you're actually progressing at a much faster rate. And that is definitely what happened to us, for sure.
I love that you said building your life around this thing, because
It's a lifestyle.
and yet it's not a lifestyle until you embrace it
Right.
as such. You know,
Right.
you see so many people nowadays. You're privileged to see inside of so many people's lives as much as they show you on social media, and you see the privileges that a lot of people have with their time and just how much of their time they can devote to their art and their passions, like when they do it full time.
Right.
And from the outside, I'm like, I work full time and I got kids at home. Like, I don't got the privilege of that much time. And yet it's up to you whether or not in faithlessness you decide that that's gonna be the wall that honestly was really a hurdle.
Right,
Like
right.
that was a hurdle for you to jump over,
Right.
but you determined it to be a wall because you were discouraged. But
It's always going to be challenging.
always, and that is also why God is so strategic in how He arranges your life. Once you submit to it may even just be one thing that may be unrelated to you or that you didn't want to do or that you don't want to have. And when you say yes to that one thing, He absolutely builds on these yeses to mold your heart and your character in a way that would edify and grow you to that end. Because it's not easy to, like, so a lot of the time you wonder, where do you even begin fashioning your life around this passion or around this idea at that point? Even with us, we wrote a blank check yes. And so it was like, whatever we can do, we'll just try and do it. We'll just give it our best go. Brittany started moving furniture around, just trying to reorient even the space that we were living in to be more becoming and to lead us more into these practices so that it'd be a daily activity rather than a something that you have to go somewhere else to really even dial into.
You got to remove all not distractions, but excuses.
Boom.
Excuses.
Nice.
And we knew what we wanted to do meant working from home. It meant working on our craft every day as much as possible.
Right.
And so we needed desks for these gifts and these different crafts that we were going to work on. And we have multiple gifts and passions, like individually, but then we also work on things together. And so we literally have had up to like 4 different desks in this space for different purposes, for music, for visual art, for like desk stuff, But
can I just share something? Because when you started talking about that, it reminded me, because this has been, I don't know, maybe like 2 years now since, a little bit more, because I know Jonah wasn't
like
here yet.
2.5 years,
but there was a point where it was very difficult for us to really build momentum. And I say that because we really started with her first pregnancy. Like we started with an intentionality with her first pregnancy. And that came with a whole lot of stuff that we just didn't, we didn't see coming as far as having to sleep and nausea and we got to upkeep and even planning for a lot of like those first parties. But one thing that we wrote was 15 minutes a day will put an anxiety away.
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It was just us being
keep
merciful.
Anxiety away.
Yeah, I think, we'll keep an anxiety away. And it was us being merciful. It was us using a strategy like the Lord continuing to encourage us to be merciful with ourselves, because a lot of these habits, a lot of the routines that we lived with, that you may live with, are a long way coming in. Like you're probably decades into doing certain things into your life or within your life an exact way. And a lot of that may be suited for you to live your life as it is now optimally, but is your life now conform to the design that God ultimately wants to rise and encourage you to? And for us, it was not yet. And it was hard to remove a lot of just how we did things out of the way.
Yeah, on a daily, right?
Yeah, and so 15 minutes, even at least, like in our lowest, if we're overcome with everything else, you always got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Any and everywhere.
Right.
You got 15.
Because we had visions for what we wanted to do. And we'll speak a little more later on how God kind of altered some of those visions or added to it. But we had strong visions of what we wanted to do. And then we are constantly having like a new drive of like something new that has spurred in us. Like we're constantly, our creativity is constantly, like moving, especially when we decided to make it a lifestyle, acting on our gifts and, just creating something, like on a more regular basis. We were getting more and more excited. We got more and more ideas that it was even hard to sleep some nights, because we have so many ideas and goals and like dreams, and we really wanted to accomplish these things that, you can kind of feel like you want to rush to that. And so you will get smacked really hard when it's midday, and in my case, you're pregnant, you're nauseous, and you can't get to that thing yet. Like it is just so hard, and
half a day just gone.
Yeah. And so there was obviously so many different challenges and so many barriers that we had to face that kind of what felt like slowed us down. and slowed down the progress of where we really wanted to go with this thing. But we realized, because we kept submitting to what God wanted us to do, and we kept submitting to his guidance on how we should build our life around this lifestyle, around including our gifts in our work, in our career, and our ministries, and our ways of teaching our kids, it became more clear how we could move on a daily basis to include our crafts, include our gifts. And we soon realized, we're gonna backtrack still, but we soon realized, like, we're moving at a much faster rate than we can think we are when we're in fear, because we just want to rush to this vision or rush to this goal.
Or you haven't met like a certain quota yet. I know I was Mr. Quota Man.
Oh yeah.
And part of it was I needed to be, and the other part of it was the Lord really teaching me how to be an effective leader, because you don't have goals, your dreams are fantasy. There's that. And you don't have any measurable success. The smallest amount of success almost breeds a pound of glory. It only takes one small thing going right that you didn't achieve the day before or the day before that, for the entire breadth of all the work that it took to even get up to that moment that day to be worth it, and for it to be fuel for even like a week forward. And so we had those moments, but there was also a lot of struggle. I working full time, and at this point we'll say like Jonah was here, and when Jonah was here, for me, that's when things became startlingly real, as far as the idea of truly dedicating like my whole life. And you know what? I'll say that's how I felt at the time. And then when Joshua came, that's when it really became true. Because you really, it's in maturity that you see how much you are capable of now, or really how much you were capable of then, but are only walking in now. And God was very, I think about the course of our life, and like the course of our life for the last 2 years, and the things that felt like they were just too much, and really moments where we were just overwhelmed, fed up with each other, because we learned parenting together, which is funny because I mean, no matter the amount of books that we might have read or couples like we talked to, I think you have in your mind an approach that you're gonna have to parenting. But when it's actually there, you're real time parenting while also working with your co-partner in that endeavor.
It's something you can never really prepare for. You experience and learn from it and grow in it by being in it.
Right. Like
you learn how to be a
that thing
parent
out with the Lord.
Yes, by being
like,
a parent.
Yeah. And there was some, I could just think of some moment with raising Jonah. He cried a lot through the night. And so it made our lives feel very chaotic, and because life was so chaotic with the sleep patterns and how much he cried, it was that much more difficult to really gauge the progress we were making. And so there were just arguments or disagreements that we would have with how do we sort this thing out, because this crying is unacceptable. And I say it because in my mind I had already I'm thinking like of a specific couple who had 3 children at that time, and they were talking about the differences between them. And I was prepared for a certain level of crying, not this length of it. Like, we talking a year in, and he's still not sleeping through the night, which is crazy to believe. It's crazy. Because that definitely got us some heated moments in trying to figure out how to even maintain, because it felt like the dreams, for me personally, it felt like the dreams were I wouldn't say dying, but we're losing more and more time, and that's more and more discouraging. And so it's like I felt more and more pressure to do something to fix it. You know, as a husband, as a man, like I relied heavily on encouragement by fixing things, and there wasn't
even though a
always
lot of our
solution.
work happened at night. A lot of our work happened late at night or in the middle of the
got
night.
interrupted at night too.
Right. And so it's like, if we're going to be up anyway to go soothe him, we're going to be up working.
Yeah.
Not to mention we're kind of night owls anyway.
Less so now.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
We've gotten some order.
Right.
Some order in this house.
Right. Even though we're working at night right now.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know, it's not 3 a.m. You know, like
Yeah.
it was, bro. It was at least 6 months straight of 3 days on average out of the week being up till 3.
Yeah.
And then
I was
waking up for work.
drawing and painting in the middle of the night.
I mean, because
for
that's when
sure.
we could really just get it done or get anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But design.
Talking about all that crying.
Yeah, no, that almost
track.
took me out. Because it was hard to remain consistent. But we did, even when it was down to whatever 15 minutes amounted to a day. We remained consistent, and
Full circle.
and it added up. No, it added up.
It did. It really did. Yeah, like one funny thing I could mention is that first year between being pregnant with Jonah and then having him, I finished one piece. And that piece looks amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. It's one of my
It's more
greatest
than you.
pieces.
Yeah, you got some real praise for that.
But it took that long between, pregnancy symptoms and then having a newborn. It would just be days in between me getting back to it. But then the next year, I'd say I got, I don't know, maybe 3 pieces. Maybe, I don't know if it was more than that, done within that year. And so, and
it's not even over yet.
no,
actually.
but I also just learned so much more than that too. I learned so much more than what those pieces show. Like almost every piece that I've put out within the past 2 years is all new technique and something like I did for the first time. Like a lot of my paintings, I worked with that medium for the very first time when I created that painting. And I mention this because, we spoke on how when you begin to dedicate yourself back to that gift, that passion that you may have had as a child, or it could even be something that you just realize you're passionate about, and it can still be scary to go after. You can feel hesitation. You could even feel fear. But if you allow those things to overpower the strength that you can receive from God and what He's called you to do, then you could really progress at the level that He wants you to, that He really wants to help you. He wants to help you progress so that you can learn how to give Him back the glory through this work. And that's really what we learned is ways that we could give God back the glory through our work. And that's one of the ways that I can tell you God has full glory. When I tell you that a lot of the pieces I put out was something I did for the very first time. I used mediums like oil paint and acrylic paint for the very first time when I created that painting. And I reached a level that I didn't think I would reach. It may not have been like my highest standard, and I could have beaten myself up for that. But if I really reflect on where I was last year,
it's astounding.
It really is. It's insane. Honestly, it's amazing, because that's what God can do, and He could even do greater than that. He could progress you at an even faster rate. And so I just wanted to share that snippet, because it's still something that encourages me now, because I know going into the next piece, that I can reach a level of greatness I can't even imagine, because that's what happens when you partner with God, when you decide that you're going to do the thing that He told you to do, and you're going to seek His guidance on how to do it and what to then do with it, and how you can give Him back the glory, how you can, minister to others or serve others or bring others closer to Him through this work of art that you've created with Him.
So much of the design that He's really shown me for my life, and in carrying out art full time and just creating full time, has been in how He's ministered to me about the emotional aspect of keeping my integrity and my character moment by moment. There was so much in the beginning. When we started, I thought it was about just setting time aside and making sure that you just get some time in every day. But further and further into it becoming like a routine of life, it really just started becoming obvious how many other aspects of my day really prepared me to enter into that space and time that I had.
Right.
Like I would think about, okay, let's say I'm looking at my schedule and I only have an hour today to use it in this way or that way. Before, I would have thought I had an hour. Now I understand that depending on the trajectory of your day, depending on how you've carried yourself, depending on how you've handled whatever angst or anger or sadness or difficulty you've gone through, you may spend that first half hour just decompressing. It's kind of like prayer. Really, like you enter into the glory after you've gone through and set aside whatever baggage you came with, before you can sincerely give Him your heart and your everything, and you're even actually open to receive Him, because a lot of receiving Him is you being empty.
Right.
It's like releasing.
Right.
And that
you're giving
was,
more of yourself to Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And making more of yourself available, because a lot of the emotional distress, you might go through on a daily basis, you're not giving Him room, really real room. Like you may be coming to Him to restore you or to refresh you, but the King of Glory sits in unapproachable light, and really when you're weighing your own woes, or even when you're under the duress of your own woes to such a degree, God doesn't really have as much room as He could have if you had emptied them. And so really, like I was saying, like a lot of it is Him really teaching how to carry myself as a father and as a husband, because there's absolutely ways you can move that would exacerbate a situation or communicate ineffectively to your partner about whatever it is that you witness, that should be changed or fixed or edified, all those things. But a lot of it is just making yourself available to His wisdom. And the design of God was originally favor. If we think about Eden and how there was literally a place that God set time aside, it really took 6 days to prepare and that he called it good, and that he placed man in this perfectly designed Eden. I mean, Eden has its own definition because like it's like people think of it as the home of homes, the heavenly home. Eden was home, not heaven. You know, the kingdom is home. That's why he wants the kingdom here. It's not for you to go to heaven, you know, salvation. It's really for you to be a citizen who can expand the territory of the kingdom even here. But the design of God is already naturally overabundance. Eden was by far more than Adam ever needed.
Yeah.
And yet, what separated us, you know, from the design of God was sin. And because God is holy and he cannot dwell in the midst of sin, being an only holy God, Adam could not be in Eden anymore. And part of it was grace, part of it was mercy, because if he actually ate of the fruit of life, he would have been eternally damned as well. But another part of it is the design of God is naturally overabundance. And so because sin separated Adam from God, he was now put in, I'm just going to read it. Let me tell you where he went and where we go outside the design of God. And to Adam, he said, we're reading Genesis 3:17. Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And so that's a perfect picture for what life is outside of the design of God. Naturally, in what he has arranged for you to thrive in, it's favor.
Yes.
And then naturally outside of favor, it's the curse. And the curse is basically hard work with sweat, thorns, and thistles. You know, there's so many people who work so hard,
yes,
like all their lives, and they just have questions about why they may still be there, or even honestly, you might fall into a rut of self-misery, pity, you know,
yeah,
and it'll shape your perspective of reality when the reality that God desired was Eden and is favor. And now that we have Jesus Christ in our lives, where we have access to righteousness through the atoning blood of Jesus Christ, so that we can enter back into sonship with God, we live in the full privilege of being able to align our character with the design of God's identity, as he originally intended it for us.
Yes.
And that's a key to favor. Like, for however much struggle, you know, I could complain about with like the kids and, you know, working full time while still, you know, just believing that what God said he desires for us to grow in and have full command of, we could have. We experienced an unparalleled amount of favor. Right. Daily, like
sure.
just like we never had anybody watching our kids, but the resources that came our way through the hands of men, when God just placed it on their heart to just bless. It was, every time it happened, it was significant enough to remind us that God still said what he said.
Right. And he still told us to do this thing that we're doing. And it, again, may seem like sometimes the progress may seem slow, or you just have such high standards for yourself and for this thing that you just want to move faster. But he has full control over what is happening, and he will continue to pour out favor over your life as you continue to do that thing he told you to do.
Yeah.
And even now, there's so many challenges in our life that we've never experienced before that we could save for another time, but it can definitely challenge our faith in what God has already promised us. Even with the things that he told us to do, even with us doing them, we can still be left questioned, like, okay, but is this thing really gonna happen, God? Like, and in the time that you said it's gonna happen,
it's a little late right now.
And there's a lot of challenges happening right now, and it feels like in the way that it kind of seems, it nearly seems impossible for these promises to come to fruition that you told us that would happen.
In fact, naturally impossible.
Right.
But supernaturally
exactly.
within reach. You know, there's not a single figure in the Bible who escaped hard work of any sort. You know, you look at David or Paul's life, like it was such a mixture of hard work and supernatural intervention. And even the testimonies, the stories that naturally inspire us and just rise up a spirit man of belief in us are stories of triumph. And in so many of those stories, God took the small yes and he used the pain to really expose people to the goodness that he provided all along.
Right.
And it's a miracle waiting to happen.
It is.
You know, when you align yourself, when you even seek God for the design that he originally intended for your life, you know, like whether you heard it as a child, whether you feel it rising up within you now, watching this, there is favor on the other side of your yes.
Oh, yes. And part of the design that we wanted to share, that God intended, is for us to worship him. That is part of our design.
Oh, I almost forgot. Yeah, he gave us very specific keys.
Very specific. So even in the midst of these great challenges that we're experiencing, where our dreams, our visions, his promises that he shared with us seem impossible, what do we do in the midst of that? We not just work hard like we're supposed to, like we all are supposed to, but we worship him, even in the midst of that struggle, even in the midst of a moment of fear. You turn that around by worshiping him. And we've been learning more and more through this process that as you continue to worship him, when it feels like it's the most hardest, if that's
disparagingly distant.
Yeah, when it's the hardest to worship him, when you do worship him in that time, you're gonna see not only does he come through, but he shows you, like you said, he was there all along.
And that's because in his word, he says he inhabits the praises of his people. The key that God gave us over our life when he was talking about design was that he has designed our lives, our marriage, and even our family for praise and consecration.
Exactly.
And he let me know that short of us fitting our lives into that design,
in our art, our work,
fully exposed to the curse that all man born in iniquity is bound to reap on this here earth, you know, short of his favor. And praise is a weapon, and it is also
praise is a weapon.
You can keep it sheathed. Like you can be so upset in moments with yourself. It may be with yourself, and maybe with another. Like you can be so upset, but But know that when you command yourself
Yes.
to release forth a hallelujah, thank you, Lord, that it opens up doors. And we're not just talking about doors from without, we're talking about doors from within.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the pain and the difficulty that we go through, like in life, is felt inwardly. Like so much of the pain, in fact, really all pain is inward. You know, if you think about getting cut, you may be cut from the outside, but you feel it because of the nerves inside of you. So is it with your emotions. A lot of sometimes heartbreak and discouragement, disappointment can be such a good minister of evil over your life and over your potential and over the promises that God has spoken over you and spoken into you. And praise is such an effective weapon to cut and prune away the flesh so that the spirit can shine through clearly, so that this Holy Spirit housed in you can shine forth clearly, even for you to see the true path, in spite of whatever darkness may have tried to come and cloud your vision.
Right.
And praise is essential. And for us, he let us know praise and consecration work in tandem with each other to secure even the power that he wants to trust us with. So I mean, this is a testimony in development, but y'all should be encouraged to seek him for the design over your life.
Yes.
Seek him because he'll let himself be known.
We all have different gifts, different skills, different passions, and we may all be at different levels of access to those things.
Boom.
But he gave us these gifts and these skills and these passions so that we could give back to him, so that we can give back glory to him and ultimately bring others closer to him through this beautiful wonder of the art that comes out of your gift and your skill. And so, I hope you are encouraged by this episode, and I hope you're encouraged to pick up that pencil again, or pick up that mic again, or pick up that tool again, whatever it is. I really pray that you are encouraged to, even for 15 minutes today or tomorrow, just explore.
Go get at it.
Explore that thing again. You may not, feel like you know what you're doing. You may feel messy, sloppy. You may feel like nervous, like you don't know how to even approach this thing anymore. But
real.
But explore, have fun with it. Get to know what God intended you to do with that thing, with that passion. And then get excited about being able to have the joy that comes from exploring that thing. Yeah. Being creative constantly gives back more than what you put in.
Ooh, I like that.
It does. It does. No, you're right. And that's one of the big reasons why we knew we wanted to dedicate our lifestyle, our future, our careers around our gifts and our passions, because it may be so much work. It may require so much, emotional work. Yeah. Let alone physical strength. But it always gives back more than what it took to produce that thing. Whatever we had to put in, we always end up getting more back. And then it lasts forever. Especially if it's recorded, or, it's on a piece of paper that you frame so it doesn't
There's a timeless
get
component
burned or something.
We store not our riches and earthly gains.
Yeah, that's true. But it will always be in our heart.
Boom. Rich forever.
Yeah. So
Jesus is in there.
That's it.
Yeah. So we would love it if you would subscribe, comment, share. I mean, if you didn't like it, then comment what you didn't like. But
comment your gift or your passion. I would love to see like your passion and your gift that you have, or that you may have had as a child but you haven't explored yet. I would love if anyone was brave enough to just type that in there.
It's about to be a community that reinforces and encourages. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, please. Let us be a community. We're not here to just talk to the public. We're here to like just be a community and actually communicate. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap.
God bless.
Bye, guys.
I see it every day. Mercy is new and available to free the bound. Nothing in me deserves it, but you gave me your life. And everything is available to do your will. I will. Stay in touch, source of my strength. Fire by night, ain't meant it for the day. If I ever feel like it's taking too long to make a play, I remember that he made the sun stand still for a day, just so we could